Hello, hello, JJ DiGeronimo here. Thank you for joining Together We Seek podcast. Each guest to me is such a beautiful journey of self-discovery and really finding the nuggets that you can take with you. So I'm super excited to introduce Sunshine to you today. We're not that far apart in distance, so I'm looking forward to working with her in person. But the topic today is shadow work in recovery. And whatever recovery means to you, I'm sure you can get a nugget of information out of that. So, Sunshine, as we start, what does shadow work mean to you?
Shadow work is a term that was coined by Carl Jung. So I think most people, if they've heard about it either from him or they identify as a witch and they know that it's a part of our journey. And for me, I've come to believe that shadow work is becoming really familiar with the sides of you, the parts of you that maybe you've denied in the past, the parts that maybe have brought about guilt or shame, discomfort, these things that we sometimes hide or aren't necessarily willing to share with the rest of the world for whatever reason, and bringing them into the light. That to me is what shadow work is.
I love that. I love that. I have done my fair share of shadow work. I've been working on my shadow work probably really intensely since 2016. And I feel like my shadow work comes up through other people. I find energies, yes, that I'm like, ooh, I got to deal with that. And I have to deal with that. So how did you discover shadow work and how did it really come into your realm?
I discovered it when I started exploring witchcraft. So that was back in, 1996 was when I first started to identify as a witch. And it just comes around. And the thought and the theory behind it is if we are not fully integrating our shadow, we are potentially impacting the magic that we're putting out into the world, the spells that we're casting, the rituals that we're doing. So that's from a magical perspective, how I knew and understood it. But from a recovery perspective, I stepped into recovery from alcoholism back in latter part of 2019. And when you have spent years numbing yourself, masking, pretending, right? And finding, especially through substance, I actually claim I'm a recovering workaholic or alcoholic, workaholic, perfectionist, and control freak. That's all of these things, right? And you start to let them go. These parts of you, these sides of you, they just start to show up, right? And repressed feelings, repressed emotions, temper tantrums. I don't care how somebody might want to describe it, but they show up because you've been numbing or hiding for so many years through substance, or for me, it was work as well.
I definitely want to talk about that numbing because I feel like so many people at some point in their lives, they use something to numb. And some of us go really deep and really work hard at numbing, and others, hide behind things like you said and just keep ourselves so uber busy that we can't feel. And I feel like society sets us up to numb.
Yeah. Well, talking about a tangent that we could go. We live in a society, this Western society, it glamorizes the grind, right? It celebrates overtime, right? You are literally rewarded more money if you're an hourly worker for working more than what you're expected to work. I mean, every bit of our system is built upon the overwork, the grind, the extension. There's even recently, I'm doing some learning around just the work of somatic, especially when it comes around to food. And we're talking about stimulants right now. Coffee, the stimulant of coffee, keeping us awake for extended period beyond when we're supposed to. There's a quote, and I wish I could remember who said it, but it disconnected us from the sun. It literally disconnected us from the natural cycles of Earth, of the world, of the universe around us, right? And when you think about it in that way, every bit of our society is built to feed addictions, to feed the numbing of just keep going, just pretend, just do what others say you should do. And it's heartbreaking. And it's no wonder that we have such a substantial issue with substance abuse here in this world.
This is so good. I don't think you hardly hear anybody talking about that, about just the numbing and the coffee. Isn't that the truth? Let's keep pumping energy drinks into our kids so that they can't get on the cycle of nature.
Oh, yeah. I don't have children myself, but my partner has 2 kids and his son lives with us. And I'm just floored at his consumption of caffeine. And it's in every form. It doesn't matter if it's Coke. You know, just the other day, I woke up and I went to throw something in the garbage and I looked and I was like, there were 5 empty cans of Coke in the garbage that were not there when I went to bed. I'm like, this kid drank 5 cans of Coke between 9 p.m. and when we're realizing he's falling asleep at 4 a.m.
Right.
Like, this is just, and nobody talks about it. No, it's not, unless somebody's talking about the Monster Energy drinks that, these kids are consuming, and then they're ending up on a sports field and having, heart palpitations or a heart attack at 14. But it's not. And this is a microcosm of this form of addiction that we have, a microcosm. And it's not coming, like, these kids aren't creating it themselves. They're creating it because they're walking in the footsteps of the adults that are working 12, 14, 15-hour days, that are keeping themselves busy, that are finding themselves addicted to substance. And it's rampant. It's rampant. And it's just part of the reason why I do what I do when it comes to not just being in my own recovery, but talking about, expressing, discussing, and sharing my story, as well as opening up the conversation for addiction and recovery and other platforms.
So good. I feel like this is such a good topic because I feel like society tries to numb us from remembering, right? And then they layer on religion, and then they layer on, you name it, on and on, about things, pressures, expectations, and everything in between. So you turn to alcohol, maybe some other numbing. Most of us can think about what we turn to numb, whether it's Netflix binging, alcohol, maybe you're vaping, maybe you do too much yoga, maybe you're working too much. But what was the moment when you really decided, like, enough is enough? And what was it for you? And what could you maybe kind of shed some light on for people that might be way in the numbing right now?
I was recently thinking about this and looking at some writing that I've done. And there's a couple of pieces of this. Like, it was not overnight that I ended up stepping into recovery. I had proof show up interestingly enough in a Facebook memory that I started looking at and visiting my relationship with alcohol back in 2014, 5 years before I actually hit what I'd consider my rock bottom. Even in the year that I hit my rock bottom, I made 2 other attempts to try to stop drinking in that year and failed, right? And I've had lots of conversations with other individuals. And for me, it's really, you have to get to this point. And I think a lot of folks will tell you a similar story. You have to get to this point that you are just so sick of living life in the way that you are. And this can be, the workaholism and realizing that you're now, sick and missing all this time with your children, or, not picking up that novel that you intended to write at the age of 19. Like, it can show up in all sorts of different ways, but you have to be willing to just finally say, I'm done with it. I'm done. And I want a change. And you have to choose to make that change. And, anybody that's ever been in recovery is going to tell you, you're choosing to make that change every single day. Every single day that I wake up, I am continuing to choose that change, the new life that I've been creating, living, and just cultivating and nurturing over the course of the last 5.5 years, rather than choosing the life that I had found myself in by October 9th of 2019, which was my rock bottom was gross and disgusting. And I was a person that I never would have imagined that I could be. Yeah, I really was.
Yeah, but you know what? That's what it takes. And I feel like that's what we signed up for, is we're going to do this until it doesn't work. And then when it doesn't work, that is when the awakening starts to happen. And not only have you awakened, clearly, you're now helping other people on their journey to awaken. And I feel like I was told, I think it was Veronica out of Pennsylvania, your messes become your message. And I see that time and time and again, is like these emerging souls that go through a series of 6 stages. And when they get to the 5th stage of really illuminating themselves, they eventually step into the 6th stage where they illuminate the path for others. And I feel like in really such a short time, 19 to 20, 2024, 2025, you are becoming that beacon of light, that lighthouse for yourself and so many other souls that have realized that their habits, cornerstones, things that maybe have been numbing them is actually a catalyst for growth.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, the interesting thing is I find a lot of the folks around me may have realized, right, that they were numbing or that there was some type of challenge. But what they have not quite, when they find me, what they haven't quite realized is that part of their shadow that they've been ignoring is the truth that they're a witch, that they believe in the path of witchcraft, that they believe in the power of their psychic gifts, that they believe that magic and ritual can bring about amazing changes in our life, and that they believe that we're actually here to help the rest of the world. Like we have purpose and meaning to be of service to the rest of this world. That's the piece. Like they may step into the path of like, I'm going to stop drinking, but then they're still suffering. They're still struggling. They're still trying to let go, and they realize that discomfort that they feel is that they've been ignoring the call to their higher spiritual path.
I love this. My whole inside is like dancing. Da, 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 da. Yes. Hello. We're here. My dad has been calling me a witch since I was like 1 or 2. And I feel like we have past lives that he knew of my capabilities well before I realized it. And so the word witch is very comfortable to me. It's been something someone has called me my whole life. I feel like some people get a little scared about it. My daughter and I drove up to Salem this summer, and it was very interesting. I expected to have an illumination feeling of like the energy of all the souls before me, but it was so commercialized. I felt sort of odd about it. Both of us were like, I just don't know about this. This doesn't really think the energy that I thought we were going to feel. But I feel like the word witch can give people the queevy-jeebies, or maybe they just don't feel comfortable with the word. So how is it being received? Do you feel like people who know they are, or people warming up to the word, or where do you feel like that sort of falls?
Yeah, interesting. I visited Salem for the first time this summer as well. I appreciated learning more of the history and understanding that was more than the actual. As far as the word, I find that there are a lot of folks that are out there, and I think this is part of where my calling came. Why I am so open is it is scary. It still is in some circles demonized. Right? Like, and I literally mean demonized. Like we're seeing, if you go back and you start doing research, like, I forget what the name of the book was that was written in like the 1400s or something, but it was horrific the way that it positioned, the witch and witchcraft. And because of this, I think there are a lot of people that are afraid to truly embrace that term, that language, to even say, and they'll dance around it. Right? But that's staying in the shadow again. And so when you do that, when you are afraid to claim the title, when you are afraid to say, I am a witch and I'm proud of it, and it's truly a part of who you are, you perpetuate a sickness. And for those of us that are in recovery, When you aren't embracing the shadow side of you, when you are not bringing that into the light, you are also opening the door to step closer to a relapse.
So for people, yes, that's so brave and also so honest. So I appreciate your journey, but also the journey you're helping other people move through. And so when you talk to people about the word witch, how do you describe it? Because I feel like it has such a negative connotation when in reality it is really powerful, magical, and transformational.
There's a really good acronym for it that I don't know off the top of my head, but I really loved. The way that I describe a witch is I look at there's kind of three pillars that make a witch. And this is after reading, looking, and exploring historically what witches have done in this world, what people that are, practicing this, beautiful spiritual path have done. And then the first one is the belief in the practice of divination, psychic abilities, right? We can connect to spirit, we can connect to the divine, we can divine, we can use tarot, runes, pendulum, it doesn't matter. But we know the unknown or the unseen. That is the first one. And the second one is the belief in magic, right? The belief in the practice that we know and understand that the world around us is made up of energetic and that we can shift, move, that we have the power and the ability to be able to do that. Right. And the very third one is the belief that we are to be of service to the world. Right. And this can be as simple as being a mother that is raising their children to be wonderful, beautiful human beings. Or this can be as crazy and wild as a witch in recovery that's going to go and create a whole religious nonprofit to welcome a safe space for other witches in recovery in this world. Right. It can be any bit of the gambit. Right. Simple as a mom or as big as a change maker. Right.
So beautiful. And I love that some of us are reclaiming that word. I feel like it's a powerful word. And if it gives you the queeby-jeebies or you're just not sure that you like the word necessarily, maybe think about that. Like, why does it bother you? What emotions does it bring up? I know I've had to do a lot of past life regression work to really understand my relationship with myself, with other women, with religious leaders. I mean, it has been intense. But I would say that knowing that you're out there and you're creating spaces, circles, and retreats and programming for people that want to work through this shadow work and really step into their gifts in a way that feels healthy and aligned is so powerful.
I really appreciate it a lot. And it's why I never would have imagined it, but I feel so grateful, so unbelievably grateful to be able to do this, to bring this into the world, to be able to, step into a space and provide the guidance and, just this reflection of confidence to be able to be whoever it is that you need to be, and this past week, I said something on Circle, and this woman afterwards, she's like, God, you just inspired me. I've been so afraid to claim it. I've been so afraid to just claim that word of a witch. And I don't think I need to be afraid anymore. Yeah.
That's very moving, very moving. So when you think about yourself, your own recovery, people listening to this and reaching out to you, like, what can they expect? So they're like, yes, I want to meet Sunshine. I want to see, not only learn more about her story, but I want to see what she offers and if it's a good fit for me. Tell me a little bit about the tribe of women that reach out to you and sort of what they can expect.
Yeah, the number one thing that I always share with people is come join us in Circle. I do a recovery circle twice a week, Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern and Fridays at noon Eastern. They're hosted on Zoom. So that's the very first thing that I say. Come in and bear witness and let us bear witness to you, right? Let us see you for who you are. People have described the space as safe. They feel seen. They feel like they can truly be who it is that they want to be. And for a lot of them, they've never had the space to be able to do that. And I feel honored to be able to give that to folks, right? I feel absolutely honored to give that to folks. As far as everything else goes, There's programming that I offer. There's a membership. We do workshops. We've got a retreat that we're, hosting for the first time next spring. And if you're called to, do it. But the most important thing to me, those recovery circles welcome you into a community where you can actually be yourself and start to shake off and leave behind some of the things that aren't serving you anymore.
Well, all of your links are below. So on the website, they can easily access the circles.
Mm-hmm. Sure can.
So that's a great place to start. If you feel like this energy is connecting with you, if you feel the vibration that seems to hit you somewhere in your body, like, I want more of this. This feels really good. I really encourage you to contact Sunshine. Her links are below. And I really hope that we get together in person and create something by the lake. I know you're around the Detroit area, but your circles are remote. But I really hope to meet you in person, maybe in Vermilion, and we can create something there for people to come together, because I feel like now is the time more than ever that women are ready, that the planet needs them more than ever, and that the energy astrologically is shifting in a way that is really catapulting women into a space to do their shadow work and do it in community.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly. And I look forward to that. Yeah. 2-hour drive. I love a road trip. So at any time, I think we could create some magic together.
Well, thank you so much, Sunshine. And to all the witches out there, claimed or unclaimed, we see you. And if you have something that you have been holding down your power, if you've been doing things that have made you small or have dimmed your light, know that there are groups and people that want to meet you and can help you move through the stages to really illuminate your path ahead. So with that, Sunshine, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, JJ.
And for everybody, if you want to meet Sunshine, her links are below. You can also join us in the community Together We Seek online, where many of the guests post their retreats and events, and you can reach out to each other. So with that, I wish you all a very energetic and illuminated day. Thank you.